If, like me, a bit of a history enthusiast, you'll know all about Elizabeth I, Queen Victoria, even Joan of Arc. But have you ever heard of the Sikh warrior queen, Rani Sada Kaur? She played a huge role in helping her son become one of the great Sikh rulers of history in the 18th century. But her story, I think it would be fair to say, is little known. Rani Sada Kaur was the mother of the Lion of the Punjab, Ranveer Singh. And the author, Ranveer Singh, wants her story to be better known. So he's written a book about it. It's called Warrior Queen Rani Sada Kaur, and I'm pleased to say that Ranveer joins us now. Good morning to you. Nice to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
So why is this story so important to Sikhs, and why do the rest of us know so little about it?
Well, I think firstly, it's a part of our history which has largely gone unknown. As a father myself, I really wanted to bring to life, real examples of brave women from Sikh history. Now, I want my daughter to grow up learning about them. But I think it's a contribution that I think is often overlooked. If someone asks you about that period of Sikh history or the Sikh Empire, the name that rolls off everyone's tongue is Ranveer Singh, and rightly so, I guess, because he was at the helm. But it was his mother-in-law, Rani Sada Kaur, who guided him, and trained him from a young age to go on and become the head of the Sikh Empire. So for me, she's a bit of an unsung hero in many ways. And generally, it's disappointing to see how little is written about Sikh women. So I'm hoping, this short novel will spark further discussion and research into her life.
Now, this story focuses on a courageous woman. How can Sikh women, do you think, be encouraged by it?
Well, that's a good question. I think, firstly, I think I'm conscious of the fact that I'm a man, so, I'll have my own biases. But like I said, as a father, she's the type of role model that I would like my daughter to look up to. She was strong of mind. She was strong in her faith. She was practicing a number of Dai Sikh, meaning she carried, she was part of the caste, so she carried 5Ks, and I touch upon that. It's an important aspect of her identity, so I touch upon that in the book. But ultimately, it's for Sikh women and indeed non-Sikh women to comment on how much encouragement they take from her story. But so far, I have to say the feedback has been tremendous. One of my proofreaders from Manchester, her name is Felicity, and she's a non-Sikh, and in her first response to me after reading the manuscript, her words were that it's very rare that I read something while I'm working that moves me to tears. So I took that as a huge compliment, but also gave me the impetus to finish the book and get the story out there. I mean, in terms of world history, it's relatively recent. We're talking late 18th, early 19th century, so not that long ago. Encouragement. I guess jury is still out, but so far the feedback has been positive.
And why do you think, given that she is such a seminal figure, not only in history but also in the development of the Sikh faith, why do you think her story hasn't been told more?
I think, like I said, at the time, Ranveer Singh really took the limelight. So a lot of the books that came out, especially so in the 19th century by British historians and writers in Punjab, focused on him, and his court and his ministers and his generals. And Rani Sada Kaur came just before his rise. So, we're talking, they ride into Lahore in 1799. And she died in 1832. So that period of history, generally speaking, is focused more on his initial battles, which she played a huge part in. But yeah, it's you only find snippets of information. But I believe this book, Matthew, is actually based on a Punjabi novel. So it's actually adapted from a book that was written in the 50s. But that book obviously is out of print, and it was in Punjabi. It's not really readily accessible to an English-speaking audience. So I'm hoping, like I said, it sparks further discourse. And I think there's actually more information out there about it. It's just a case of finding it.
Also, I think you're probably reaching out to a new audience that is more receptive to the story because we are more aware of our diverse culture and our willingness to understand people of other faiths and other traditions.
Yeah, that's a fair comment, yes. I hope so, yeah.
So who should read it? We should all look out for this, should we, do you say?
I'd say so, yeah. Like I said, it's in English. There's a glossary of terms at the end as well, which I put in. Like I said, we all. I think in many ways, Rani Sada Kaur is to a Sikh, who somebody like Joan of Arc is to a Catholic. And we know of her story. We know of the story of Boudica and other, strong women from world history. So, like I said, this is only 200 years old in terms of when she was around. So I'm hoping, Sikhs and non-Sikhs will buy and enjoy the book.
Ranveer, really good to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us in the Channel Islands this morning. Ranveer Singh, who's written this book called Warrior Queen, Rani Sada Kaur, a remarkable woman. She was the mother to the Lion of the Punjab, Ranjit Singh, a name that you may well know from your colonial history, and played a huge role in helping her son become one of the great Sikh rulers of history in the 18th century. We know so much about him, as is so often the case in history. We know about the men, but so little about her. But now that's all going to change thanks to Ranveer Singh's new book. Fascinating insight there, and our thanks to him for joining us this morning and broadening our views and hopefully intriguing us as we know a little bit more about our history around the world.